It's been over 5 years since Florida was the first state to pass a law protecting women's sports in our public school system. So thankfully, we have none of those shenanigans going on here in Florida, while other states continue to see the insanity and continue to have women that are treated unfairly, women that are not given the opportunity to compete freely and fairly, and have the opportunity of the joy of competition, the joy of training, of preparing, of going into competition, and ultimately getting to stand on a podium, not having a man standing next to them or above them. U.S. women's swimming, master swimming, has been known, pretty prominent, for allowing men to compete in women's events. Many of their largest competitions in recent past have resulted in the victors being men competing in women's sports. Over the last month, they've instituted a new temporary policy, I think because they realized that there were complaints and concerns and possible legal action coming. So they created a new policy that purports to try to protect women's sports, but it does not get the job done. They now say they will reserve, it appears, some competitions for just women, but not all. And they have some loopholes where, if you go through a transition process, you could become eligible again to compete in any one of these competitions. This is not acceptable. It does not fly with Florida law. We will use every tool at our disposal, from our civil rights laws to our anti-discrimination laws to our consumer protection laws, to ensure that we are protecting women and girls. As these ladies can tell you later, the other aspect here is the safety issues of having men in women's locker rooms. We've been active across the state where we've seen gyms and locker rooms allowing men to have access. We put them on notice. This does not fly with Florida law. We will not tolerate it, and we will hold you accountable if you are going to endanger our women and girls. So we hope they will do the right thing and quickly certify in writing that they are going to ensure that no women are able to participate in any event with women. And if they don't do so, then we will pursue additional legal action. I just think about women that go through the training, the sacrifice. If you're going to be a good competitor, it takes discipline, it takes good diet, it takes a healthy lifestyle, good sleeping habits, sacrificing time away from fun and friends. And I can just imagine somebody, getting into a swimming lane and looking next to them and seeing a big man, or running towards a soccer ball and looking up, and it's a guy running towards them. This is not right. It still seems insane to me that we're having this conversation in this country, but we will always fight for what's right in Florida. We're the state where, woke goes to die. That's going to continue. We will always fight for what's right and just. I believe this is a moral cause, and more importantly, what's happening is unlawful under state law. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kim Jones here, who brought this to our attention and has been a great partner and advocate for women's sports. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Attorney General Uthmeier and Commissioner of Education Kamoutsas, for standing up for women's sports. Icons is proud to stand with you. U.S. Masters Swimming continues to allow men to compete with women and take women's awards if they feel like it. There is a single question at stake here, and it is, do women and girls deserve access to fair sports? And the answer is yes or no. The state of Florida and Attorney General Uthmeier believes that answer is yes, and unequivocally, so do we. It is illegal for men to be competing with women, and it has been for over 50 years. Sports are the public arena of the difference of the sexes. We all know what a woman is. So when we are confronted with a public spectacle of this absurdity, we all see it, and we understand that everyone else around us sees it. Women are not the equivalent of hampered or weakened men. That insult is breathtaking. The clock is ticking, the end will come, but the insanity of allowing boys into girls' sports feeds on silence to continue. And justice is restored when we speak the truth and take a stand. Will we be silent? Are we willing to quietly watch women mistreated and told to step aside for the sake of a few men and boys to feel affirmed? We need to relearn that there are lines that cannot be crossed, that remind us we need to be unapologetic, unashamed, to stand on principles and defend our women and girls. Because if we can't find it for something this obvious, we won't find it anywhere. This has all become very clear to the public in recent years, and I had a front row seat when my daughter and her peers raced against Leah Thomas. I saw the ramifications, the tears, the struggle, and I watched as strong, confident young women became frightened and stopped believing that their leaders would stand up for them. The women were silenced, told to ignore their instinctive fear and discomfort. They were emotionally blackmailed and told that the feelings and well-being of a man were more important than their own, that his life depended upon their concession. This emotional blackmail is no different than the age-old threat that women have always faced when trying to stand up for or leave abuse. If you leave, I will kill myself. Telling women that they are responsible for carrying the mental health burdens of another is wrong. Every week, I now hear firsthand what happens as we are putting our women and girls through this. The stories, the numbers, and the impacts are heartbreaking, and they are staggering in volume. When we tell our girls that they are more valuable as tools of affirmation, as shields of protection for men, when we tell women that their accomplishments, their desire to win, their hard work, and their feelings need to be set aside to make someone else feel better, we damage them psychologically. This is abuse of women. It is long past time in this country for sports organizations to stop telling women to step aside and tolerate this abuse for the sake of a man's feelings. Sports executives and boards are bringing shame and reproach upon their organizations by catering to men who insist on taking women's places, and the bill for this abuse is coming due. Fortunately, the nationwide fight for women's rights in sports is seeing new champions for fairness, integrity, and the rule of law. Champions like Attorney General Uthmeier. Because of the leadership of Attorney General Uthmeier, we are closer to the day when women's sports will once again be where we celebrate and recognize female athletes. Because women and girls deserve access to fair and safe sports without any caveats. Thank you.
Next, we've got our Education Commissioner, who's surrounded by women at home. I think he's got 4 daughters that are all athletes, so I know he cares a lot about this.
Good morning, and thank you, Attorney General Uthmeier, for having me here today. Sorry, let me get situated. I am newly designated Commissioner of Education as of yesterday here in Florida. And Florida has been a beacon of sanity for women's sports and spaces. Our Attorney General has been involved in this fight from the very beginning alongside Governor Ron DeSantis, standing for what is just and right. Other states like California, New York, Oregon have made it their mission and their priority to toss out the original intent of Title IX and allow men to push women out of the opportunities they fought so hard for just a few short decades ago. States have allowed female athletes like Peyton McNabb to be permanently injured because they approved of a man being able to play on women's high school sports teams. Other states have forced athletes like Riley Gaines and so many others to share a locker room with a man to please the woke mob. And when they complained, they threatened action against those women. Other states have subjected women like Cassidy Carlisle and Lainey Armistead to repeated competitions against men, especially guaranteeing the boy would win the trophy for the girls. But under the leadership of Governor DeSantis and Attorney General James Uthmeier, Florida has taken bold action to ensure that our female athletes are protected in the sports that they dedicate so much time and energy towards, and in the private spaces like bathrooms and locker rooms. That is why in Florida, the governor signed the Fairness in Women's Sports Act to ensure that Florida schools were not allowing men to participate in women's sports at both the K-12 level and at the collegiate level. We also passed the Safety in Private Spaces Act to protect women's locker rooms, restrooms, and other private facilities from being infiltrated by men. This is an issue that essentially only impacts women. No boys are being forced to give up their trophies for girls, and there are no girls receiving scholarships instead of boys. The woke left has decided that instead of supporting women, they want to erase them. Thankfully, the Trump administration has taken great strides to rectify the issues nationwide for both high school and collegiate level athletics through his executive order keeping men out of women's sports and the U.S. Department of Education's commitment to investigating violations of Title IX and the President's executive orders. But U.S. Masters Swimming is a clear example that the fight is not over. As a father of 4 beautiful little girls, I can tell you that I will never stand for a boy to take their spot on a team, let alone share a private space with my daughters. Proverbs 31 talks about the virtuous woman, but it also says that you must speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute, speak up and judge fairly, defend their rights. And as Commissioner of Education, alongside Attorney General James Uthmeier, we will never stop speaking up for the rights of women to be able to play sports safely, win their designated trophies, and have privacy in locker rooms. I thank you, Attorney General, for your relentless commitment to this issue. I thank you as a father for taking a stand for my little girls as well as yours and ensuring that the left will not get away with violating the rights of our daughters. I thank the young women who are here today and their families who took a stand for what was right. Even when they were called names as smeared for their beliefs, they held firm and fought to protect women and bring change. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next, we'll hear from Cassidy, who's from Maine and has been a strong advocate supporting Attorney General Bondi and the DOJ's litigation efforts there. So I'll let her introduce herself.
Hello, my name is Cassidy Carlisle, and I'm a Nordic skier from Maine. Growing up, hockey was my main sport, but by 7th grade, I switched to Nordic skiing because we didn't have a girls' hockey program in my area, and the physical differences between me and the boys were becoming harder to ignore. Around the same time, I went to change for gym class and was shocked to find a biological male in the girls' locker room. When I raised concerns, I was told to use a separate bathroom, even if it meant being late to class. I was just 13 and already being forced to choose between my privacy and my education. By my junior year, everything I'd worked for in Nordic skiing shifted. I'd given up hockey, hoping to find a fair and equal opportunity in another sport, but that didn't happen. I was competing against a biological male. And no matter how hard I trained or how much I pushed myself, I was beaten over and over again. I wasn't losing because I lacked discipline or drive. I was losing because the playing field wasn't level. It left me feeling defeated, not just as an athlete, but as a young woman who believed that hard work should mean something. This isn't about exclusion, it's about fairness, and every girl deserves the chance to compete with confidence that her effort truly matters. I'm excited to be here today in support of Attorney General Uthmeier as he stands for women and girls in Florida, ensuring that every girl has a fair playing field and can feel safe in their own locker rooms. I hope that leaders in my own state of Maine will see the leadership here in Florida and change course. They must protect the integrity of women's sports and follow common sense that biological men are different and don't belong in the female category. Actions like this today show that the issue isn't going away, and we shouldn't have to wait for the next girl to lose out on a competition to speak out and take action. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Lainey?
Thank you for having me, and I thank you, Attorney General Uthmeier and the great free state of Florida for your continued advocacy and protection of women's sports. I'm Lainey Armistead. I grew up with a soccer ball at my feet. From the time I could walk, I dreamed of playing at the collegiate level. And not only did I get to fulfill that dream and play and also get a scholarship, I was voted captain of my women's soccer team after my freshman season. I know what it takes to compete at that level. I know the sacrifices, the hard work, the hours of training, and I also know how much it means for girls to have something that's truly their own. Attorney General Uthmeier talked about the joys of competing, and that just really resonated. There are so many joys of competing and having the opportunity to push ourselves, to earn scholarships, to win championships, and to build confidence with our best friends on and off the field. That's why I've been involved in this lawsuit to protect women's sports for over 4 years now. I didn't do it because I wanted the headlines. I did it because I know what's at stake for women and girls. In those 4 years, I've watched more and more girls get sidelined. I've seen girls lose out on titles, scholarships, and opportunities they worked their whole lives for. I've seen girls getting injured, which is not hard to imagine because men are stronger than women. Boys are stronger than girls. This is reality. And now we're seeing girls who aren't just being displaced, but harassed and traumatized because some people, unlike the great state of Florida, are not protecting them. This is personal to me. It's personal because I've lived it, because I know how life-changing sports can be when it's fair, because I know the feeling of fighting for your spot on the team, of grueling 6 a.m. practices, of not going on spring breaks because I had soccer. And I also know how crushing it would have been to lose. Not because I didn't train hard enough, but because the system stopped caring about me. That's why I stood up then, and that's why I'm standing here now. For the girls in West Virginia, for the girls here in Florida and across the country, for the girls like Cassidy, and one day for my own daughters, because they deserve the same fair shot that I had. This year, I'm asking the highest court of the land to be on the side of reality and to protect women and girls in sports. And I'm grateful that leaders here in Florida are taking a stand for common sense and protecting their women and girls. Thank you.
Thanks, Lainey. Yeah, I recently saw a study where over 90% of women in C-suite business offices were previously competitors in women's sports. It shows the discipline, the work ethic, the sacrifice, all these traits that empower women and set them up for success. We have to protect women's sports at all costs. So in Florida, we're going to continue to do everything we can to implement the Trump administration executive order and utilize all the tools at our disposal to ensure that we are protecting women and girls. It's a civil rights issue and it's a public safety issue. So thank you for being here, and I've got time for a few questions if we have any.
What kind of deadline are you looking at for U.S. Masters Swimming to respond to this, and what sort of legal action will you be taking if they don't satisfy the requirements?
We'll have a letter that we make public today that formally goes over that'll have a deadline. I know they have a large competition on the west coast of Florida later this month, so we certainly would like them to change their policies before that competition. I know there's several more in Florida later this year. And if they don't want to do it on their own in an amicable fashion, then we'll pursue litigation.
Something off topic here, but Orange County Commissioners are meeting today to discuss the county's role in providing, working with ICE for transport of detainees. And this comes as there's been pushback from some, including some local leaders, on that issue. What is your response to that on having local corrections officers transport detainees across the state?
Well, we've been pretty consistent in Florida. You know, we have a new immigration enforcement law in the books that the legislature passed and governor signed coming out of special session back in February that requires all local officials and law enforcement to make best efforts to coordinate and cooperate with ICE on immigration enforcement. So I'm not familiar with the specific particulars of the debate that's happening right now, but anywhere where we've had municipalities or commissions or local authorities indicate that they don't want to support ICE, we've immediately put them on notice that they're probably facing liability, and if they don't make a correction, they face legal action. If you're not going to help ICE, you better have a pretty dang good reason. That's what I got to say. So I'd certainly look at the reasoning, but based on the sound of it, I think they need to do their best to help ICE.
I have an off-topic and then an on-topic question. Starting with the off-topic one, you sent a letter to public airports to know what necessitated the new law and maybe what airports and airlines have been practicing geoengineering or weather modification, if you're able to speak on that.
Yeah, so I mean, this is something that I, thought was a conspiracy theory. I think many of us have. We've heard the chemtrail talk, but evidence does suggest that there are indeed people that are experimenting with the weather, cloud seeding and the release of aerosols to try to moderate temperatures and dictate rainfall. This stuff sounds pretty scary to me. I don't think the public really knows about it. Releasing aerosols up in sky seems like it could be dangerous for consumers. Some of this does appear to have been funded by the federal government historically, so I think they may have some work to do on their end. But the legislature came together and passed a new law recently. My letter was to put airports on notice that they do have obligations and could face penalties, including some criminal penalties if they don't comply.
Thank you. And then heading back to the topic, if the ladies can maybe speak a little bit, how many states you guys are going to? I know you mentioned New Hampshire and Maine that y'all are from, and maybe just the heart of why you wanted to come here to Florida specifically. I know you mentioned you want to continue your support of women in sports, but would just love
If you're up
to
for it,
know
yeah, sure.
where all the stops are and some more information.
Well, I live in Florida. I'm a Florida resident right now, and I plan to be because I went to law school here, and now after all of the great things that Florida has been doing to advocate for women and girls in sports, I think that it's a great place for me to root down my family because I do want to have children someday, and I want them to be protected.
So I'm from Maine, and I've done a couple different things in D.C., speaking at the White House and at the Department of Justice with Attorney General Pam Bondi. Currently, I just graduated high school, so I'm on my way in the fall to Liberty University. Is where I hope to.
One more thing, Attorney General.
Sure.
I wanted to get your reaction to the state Democrats filing a lawsuit for their access to Almeida or Alcatraz. What's your reaction to that?
I believe they just got to take a tour, so I don't believe they've been denied access. I understand some of them wanted to climb into the holding spaces and be with the detainees. That's not allowed at any facility. That's just weird. Hundreds of the people in this facility, are wanted for some very serious and gruesome offenses. These Democrats, they were taking thermometers and putting them up to warm lights to try to get a false temperature read to dishonestly portray that it was hot while it's an air-conditioned facility. They've complained that, a toilet and sink shouldn't be in the same room where you're brushing your teeth and going to the restroom. That's my bathroom, so I'm not sure. I don't know what they're doing. They were elected to serve American people, yet they're crying and bending over backwards to fight for illegal aliens, many of whom are wanted for serious crimes.
Do we have a number of how many biological men have been competing in women's sports this year in Florida?
I don't have a set number. We're aware of some examples. Obviously, this investigation will probably lead to more data points, but I don't have a specific number for you now.
And follow up to that, this was already banned previously at legislative session. So is this basically being done illegally outside of that law, or can you speak to that?
The law passed several years ago really focuses on our public education system, focuses specifically on prohibiting men and women's sports. That law was laid down on top of the underlying civil rights, anti-discrimination, public nuisance, and consumer protection laws, authorities we already have in Florida to protect people from unfair treatment. So this is a little bit different. Here you've got, it's a private association, a nonprofit, but they're still discriminating and ultimately subjecting people to danger.
Kind of a follow-up to his question. That's what I wanted to understand too. This announcement today asking U.S. swimming, master swimming, to not let men participate. Is this part of something broader? What is this announcement? I guess I'm trying to figure out how to ask this question. Is this announcement part of that law, or is it, like you said, something completely different?
This is different in that it's not a school system, but it's still hurting women. So we believe we have the legal authority to shut it down. We hope that they'll work with us amicably, but if they don't, then we'll pursue further legal action.
And you said that master sewing already had an incident So what is that temporary policy, and is this just a matter of making that policy permanent?
We do not accept the policy. The policy does not get the job done. While very nuanced and filled with loopholes, the policy still allows men to compete in women's competitions. We don't want any of that.
One quick question off topic now as well. Camp Blanding, what's the latest on that?
You'd have to get the Department of Emergency Management to give you a more up-to-date report. My understanding is it is still ongoing, and there will be additional bed capacity there to supplement the Alligator Alcatraz facility. Probably got time for one more. Anybody? Yes.
Has there been any men participating in women's U.S. Master Swimming that you know of?
Yes, several occasions. Yeah, in fact,
In the state of Florida?
that's my understanding, yes. Yeah, some of the biggest award winners standing on the top of the podium have been men. Thank you all. Appreciate it.